Hi everybody, Shannon Johnson, continuing the Elements series, and today is the discussion on fire, the fire element. As you can see, I have a few items related to the fire element, and yes, that is Tika rubbing on her own portrait. So, today we're going to dig into the different elements of the fire. That was kind of redundant, wasn't it? Get into the different attributes of the fire element and how it relates to the human body, our environment, and how to incorporate more of the fire element into your home or for your physical self. Where would you want to look from different aspects as far as how it may be relating. So, I love the fire element. It's got such nice energy to it. So, the archetype for the fire element is the wizard. And the wizard inspires faith that dreams can come true, which is a really nice aspect if you think about it. All of the elements have an archetype to relate to. So the wizard is a really good one for fire. You always see pictures of wizards creating fire, sparking fire, using fire. And yes, Tika really loves her portrait. I don't know how long she'll stay. Okay. So, Artie, behave. The yin organ, and this is from polarity therapy and traditional Chinese medicine. Hi, Denise. Glad you could join in. So the yin organ and meridians related to the fire element in the body. And this one is different than the other two I've done, metal and wood, because the fire element actually has two meridian channels for yin and for yang. So the yin organ for fire is the heart and the pericardium. Its time of day for the heart channel is 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and the pericardium is 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And this is, if you haven't studied polarity therapy or any of the traditional Chinese medicines, they all of the organs and the meridian channels have a particular time of day that they are the most active. So the color, nope, I skipped over my yang organ, didn't I? So I need to say, so my yang organ for the fire element is the small intestines, and something none of us really listen or have paid attention to. But if you've studied any of the traditional Chinese medicine, it would be the San Chow, which is the triple burner, is what they refer to it as. The small intestine channel is, its primary times are 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And for the San Chow, it is 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. The color for the fire element, now this one kind of threw me a bit because it has more than one color. Depends on what teaching you're looking at, right? So the color, its primary color is red. And red we usually associate in the chakra system to the root chakra. But the fire element is actually more related to the solar plexus, which is yellow. So the colors for the fire are red, orange, and a yellow, orange, or yellow. A little different than the others. The emotions for the fire element, your positive emotion is joy. And the negative emotion is hate. And that's kind of funny to think about, really. Have we ever considered that those two were the yin and yang to each other? Joy and hate. And they are the fire element emotions. Hi, Jane. It's also on the negative aspect. The other one is resolve. There's also a couple others. I have to shift this a little bit because how can we not get in the camera Tika with her portrait? This is my kitty cat, Tika. And that is her portrait that was done by a fantastic artist out of Ireland. So, the sound, the body sound related to the fire element is laughter. Laughing is actually the fire element in us. Its sense is speech, the tongue, and taste. Of course, tongue and taste would go together, but yes, speech is also part of the fire element, which in some teachings, we always relate the throat chakra to the ether element, and its color is blue, but physical speech is a fire element. It flourishes our complexion, and it nourishes the blood vessels. Its flavor is bitter on the tongue. So things that you eat that are bitter are foods based on the fire element. Its season is summer, which that's rather fitting. That's when the sun is the most potent for us, the summer element. Its shape is the triangle, and its direction is south. So in a feng shui, you would want to put red elements and items related to the fire element in the south side of the house. Its symbol is the candle or the sword, and the planet it's related to is Mars. That one's kind of obvious, right? Because Mars always looks so red, orange, kind of, they end up coming together. Other emotions that are related to the fire element: passion, courage, lust, creativity, fertility, virility, force, enthusiasm, and intensity. Another one of it has a smell. Scorched is the smell, which is kind of obvious, right? Because fire burns. And the animal that it's related to is anything feathered. So that gives us quite a wide range. All right, so I also wanted to note that in Reiki teachings, the fire element is related to the solar plexus, and I mentioned this just a few moments ago, and with the color of yellow. So in that teaching, it's the fire element's function is emotions. And if you think about how many emotions are now related to the fire element, it would make sense. Hi, Chris. So, moving into a little bit of polarity therapy for the energetic meridian system in the body. And since there's 4 related that I've already mentioned, the yin organ of the heart and pericardium, the yang of the small intestine, and the sanjiao, the triple burner. Let's talk about the channels for a moment. So the yin heart channel, The heart is known as the ruler of all internal organs. And that pretty much makes sense, right? Because if the heart is not functioning properly, it's not getting enough blood into the other organs. We're not getting enough oxygen into the blood through the lungs if the heart's not functioning properly. Everything about us, our physical body, you have to have the heart beating, right? When it stops, our physical existence stops. So that makes pretty much basic sense. It's functioning to govern the blood and the blood vessels. That's its primary functions. That's pretty basic. We all know that. But if your blood is not healthy, it can screw up all kinds of shit. So the heart also, now this is another another part of multiple areas of Chinese medicine. The heart houses the mind, the Shen energy. It controls sweat. It opens into the tongue and manifests in complexion. So there you go. If something's dysfunctional in, if you're having a lot of red blotchy splotches, irritations and things, it's an area that you have to look at. Is your heart channel or your blood and your blood vessels, and how is that really functioning? Is it doing properly? I just love that she's laying there, so calm, next to her portrait. Okay. It's the least sensitive, the heart is the least sensitive to external pathogenics. It's more sensitive to internal. So this is where your homeostasis is really important to keep your heart healthy. And it's the most vulnerable to the emotional body, emotional aspects, especially when we get into the excess, okay? Excess joy, sadness, anger, frustration, resentment, and depression all impact the heart muscle, the heart channel. Giving me a little bit of water over here. And one of the things I really love about that bit on the excess of emotions, if you're carrying around a lot of anger, resentment, depression, frustration, and you keep ignoring it, eventually it's going to manifest, and it is going to manifest affecting your heart. And I know this for a fact. In fact, I have someone in my life who went through a lot of traumas from childhood into adulthood. Was a very angry person in their 20s and 30s, and even into the 40s and 50s, because those underlying traumas were not being addressed. They just kept bubbling and bubbling and bubbling, and would, have outbursts, tried all the different kinds of psychotherapy, tried all the different SSRI drugs, which I do not like, but things like Zoloft and Prozac and all the other list, and none of them worked. This person ended up having what they call the widowmaker heart attack at the age of 53. Could have killed him. Okay. All of those unresolved, difficult emotions and traumas manifested in the heart, creating a heart attack. And the more that those, that was like really a wake-up call for the individual to start dealing with all of that, but it wasn't worth hanging on to all that anger. And is actually doing very well and has not had another heart attack since then. But it took a lot of emotional healing. And luckily the person had a couple people in life to help understand and hold the space for that person to work through those feelings. And it's a completely different homeostasis now. So definitely, if you have a lot of those built up, I'm telling you, heal yourself, take care of your heart, because those emotions do end up creating and manifesting into physical disease. Okay, rolling on. Let's talk the small intestine channel. This is the yang. So I'm going to go back and forth since the fire element brings in 4 channels for the body. The small intestine channel, it functions to control receiving and transforming of food from the stomach and to separate the fluids. It is sensitive to dietary habits and emotional problems. Ever notice, get upset? We always refer to it, our stomach is all tightened up and everything. It's really your small intestine, because the stomach empties into the small intestine first. So yes, it can cause stomach fluids to bubble up, but it's really the small intestine that's having the big struggle. Or if we're not dealing with our emotions a lot, we can have a lot of digestive issues going on within the small intestine, and it impacts the rest of the digestive system. That's why in so many teachings you'll end up seeing that the way to homeostasis and to fight disease is you start with your gut first, the digestive system first, because it impacts everything else, right? So that's all I got on the small intestine channel. Fuck it. All right, so let's move on to the pericardium channel. This is also a yin with the heart. Yeah. All right, so your pericardium channel functions to protect the heart from external pathogenic factors. I'm cracking up. I could see her over there doing her yawn and shit next to her portrait. All right, so the pericardium channel's influence is especially powerful with regard to disorders of the chest cavity and emotional distress related to interpersonal relationships. Big time. So how you relate, not only with your people around you, your interpersonal relationship with yourself as well. So it's got the dual aspect in that area. And it's something you really need to pay attention to, right? Because pericardium is part of the heart. Now, for the other yang channel was the san chow, the triple burner, as it is referred to in a lot of traditional Chinese medicine. And it's got an upper, middle, and lower burner, as they call them. But this channel incorporates all 3 levels of it. okay? You can compare it to mist, a bubbling cauldron, and a drainage ditch as far as those three, the upper, middle, and lower burners. The Sanchow functions to receive and transport fluids and nourishment. It excretes waste and controls the distribution of the various types of qi. So if you picture it as three bubbles, upper, middle, lower, that's kind of the triple burner, okay? Shen, I need to remember, Shen, Du, I'll look that up again because I know there's the three names, the Shen and the Du, and I forgot the third one, but okay, whatever. Yeah. I'm kind of having one of those days when it's like, I've had a lot going on in other aspects. Anyway, moving on to some feng shui about the fire element. And again, I'll repeat, as I have in the others, I am not a feng shui expert. I'm not a feng shui expert. I saw my little screen froze for a moment. Don't know if it made it on the recording. So, repeat. But I have been looking into it to help as far as bringing in the elements into our home environment, which impacts our personal homeostasis within the body. So, we got, to give an idea first, fire is nourished by the wood element, right? In the creative cycle, because if you rub two sticks together, you get fire. Fire needs wood. That creates ash, which fire nourishes the earth element by it creating ash, which then becomes part of earth. And it's controlled by the water element, of course, because what do you use to put out a fire? Unless it's a grease fire. Don't use water on a grease fire. Bad, bad, bad. But otherwise, water extinguishes fire. So that's its controlling side. All right. The fire element is closely related to emotional health. It loves to be nurtured with laughter. So that just reiterates what we've already found out in other types of teachings. And I know some of the things I say from my notes are going to be a little redundant, but my whole point is all of the teachings have a core that is the same. We just need to start integrating it all in order to, since our DNA, everything else is changing, the vibrational energy is changing for our incarnations on the Earth planet. So do those traditional teachings, and some of the newer teachings need to begin to integrate so that we can have a more balanced homeostasis with all of these other new factors involved. To bring fire into your environment, the evocation of living things like leather, animal prints, art with animals and people. Even pets represent the fire energy. So as you can see over here, I have Tika's portrait, which I still need to have my husband make a frame for it. A lot of us have family photos around the house. That's my husband and I, the first year we were together. I have family portraits in a whole other place. As you can see, the artwork behind me incorporates animals and people with a lot of ethereal and fantasy elements added in. this also brings the fire element in. And if anybody that knows me knows that I am a huge Michael Parks artist, Michael Parks. And so my home is covered in his artwork, which all incorporate animal and people and brings in the fire element. And I have them all framed in particular types of wood frames that have been made. So that's a way that I bring in the fire element. Um, so yes, your pets, cats, dogs, birds, right? Because we already said that the fire element is related to feathered animals. So even those, your guinea pig, all of those guys, they are all part of the fire element in our homeostasis of the home. Chris asks, taxidermy would qualify, right? Including skulls. No. Technically, no. I think it depends on the intent and the energy of them. Because the fire element is primary on living things, because fire always has to have oxygen in order to maintain its flame. So that's kind of where the taxidermy is a dead element, kind of like when we were talking about the plants and the dried flowers in Monday's episode on wood. I think we're kind of looking at that same paradox with the fire element and taxidermy. So I think it really depends on how it's being utilized energy wise, because also a taxidermied animal or skull, the energy has departed from the being, and all that remains is the residual memory energy that can linger within the cells. So it's a yes and no. Does that make more sense, Chris? Why it would be both? And because yeah, it is kind of that paradox there, the same thing we had about the plants versus dried plants. And like I say, not everything in the teachings, to me, you have to take what is going to work for your environment. And if those work better and you've worked with the energy so that you're empowering the intent of it with the fire element for homeostasis, then you're good to go. You know, I like to challenge teachings because, just because something is one way doesn't mean it has to stay that way. Okay, so in your home, what other items in your home are considered part of the fire element? Anything the color red. And I'm going to expand on that and include red, orange, yellow, orange, and yellows. And I know that's contradictory, but there again, as I said earlier, depends on the teaching, depends on what you're working with and your intent on it, how you blend them together. To me, go ahead and blend those suckers. Bring it in. Yes. Chris mentions the hearth and the furnace. Yes, because they create heat. Heat and warmth are part of the fire element. Other things, the microwave, lamps, paintings of the sun is another good way of bringing in the fire element. Or if you like things like I do for artwork, I'm working with it in a different way. You're going to place any of those kinds of items on the south or southwest side of the home for the balance. You can also do the northeast side of the home because fire nourishes the earth element. So you can do north and northeast. And that's to bring in good luck. Now it says northeast, not particularly north, because it says north and west would be bad luck. And there again, I challenge that teaching because in the nourishing cycle, earth is north. And in most teachings, earth is north. In other teachings, earth is in the center. In a lot of the other 5-element teachings, earth is in the center. So, you got to play with shit. Don't take everything as being a hard line. There's flexibility in everything because energy is flexible. All right. Let's talk about some gemstones because this girl's crystal fanatic, love my stuff. So gemstones related to the fire element are red, yellow, and orange. There you go, again. Stones like imperial topaz, amber, fire opal. Damn, that was the other stone. I forgot. I've been forgetting which stones to bring out here. But I have a fire opal. Red spinel, red garnet, and ruby, citrine, and sphalerite. I don't think I pronounced that right, but it's SPHALIRITE. Some other fire stones are carnelian, fire agate, red jasper, red tourmaline, and sunstone. So, like I've got, this is a raw ruby. If you've ever seen raw ruby before, I love this stone. I work with it a lot. But great fire energy with a raw ruby. I've got a fire carnelian, right? Great stone. And one thing I like about the fire carnelian is because as much as it's related to the solar plexus, it's also related to the sacral chakra and the root chakra because of its color and its energy intent, which also makes it relate to, let me look at this other note. Oh, can I read upside down? Earth and water. Earth, water, and fire are all part of a fire carnelian energy. There you go. If stones can integrate, we can integrate. Come on. This is another one, as you can see, that one's a little bit more orange. So, it's actually, whoop, where'd you go? Oh, no, don't lose it. I wonder, maybe this one's amber. I think this might be amber. And then we've got some citrine. Okay. Some nice citrine. These ones are very yellow gold. Artie, did I say it was time for you to come up here? Oh, thank you. All right. So those are all great gemstones to work with the fire element, as well as those 3 chakra points, root, sacral, and solar plexus. Getting into some other types of areas with the fire element, let's talk a little bit about the Chinese astrology. So in Chinese astrology, the yang, if you are a fire element person, the yang would be the birth year ending in 6. And for birth years ending in 7, It's the yin energy. Right? Yin is masculine, yang is feminine. So, and I happen to be a fire element person on the yin side. It's Chinese astrology animals related to it are the snake, the horse, and the goat. So you can read up on those if they relate to you. In Wu Jing teachings, fire is yang in character all the time. Its motion is upward and its energy is expansive. I love that. Because if you think about fire, it is very much of an expansive energy. And it also, not only does it nourish the earth, and wood nourishes fire, one of the other elements that nourishes fire is air. Its attributes in the more ancient teachings are dynamic. Yeah, my pronunciation sucks today. Dynamism, strength, persistence, and its bad side is restlessness. The fire element provides warmth, enthusiasm, and creativity. And again, its excess is aggression, impatience, and impulsive behavior. And that's in the Wu Jing philosophy, which a lot of these I'm looking at theories that are going back into 700 BCE and further back than that. Like Reiki goes back about 5,000 years. So these are all great areas to look at. I wanted to add in, because I do love this chart that Jamie did, but I didn't want to pull it in unless I through my notes. I wanted to make sure that people knew that's another tool I'm using because it's inexpensive, but it's got great references. So on this one, the things that I wanted to add in, topaz and yellow jasper also relate. Moonstones, aromas, that's what I want to look at. Lemon, ginger, rosemary, carnation, bergamot, great ones to work with the fire energy. Let me see, sacral. The root chakra with red, you're talking black tourmaline, bloodstone, red jasper, rubies, and smoky quartz. So there again, you can see from the different teachings, there is a lot of mix. Is there anything else I wanted to look at this for? No. I don't think so. Oh, by the way, bergamot is an antidepressant. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Okay, so that's really all I have on the fire element. Now, another good way of bringing in the color red, because like my own, I have some red that's incorporated in different pieces, but I don't have a lot of things that are just solid red. So I use red candles. On my altar, I use red candles. to represent the fire element. Another thing about red candles, when you're working with different types of meditations, manifestation, things like that, it's really great to use a red candle instead of a white candle. And the reason why is when you're working with those types of manifestations, red is a power amplifying color. So using a red candle when you're manifesting in a meditation versus a white candle, the red candle is going to amplify the intent of the energy you're trying to create and manifest towards. So some people see it as a negative because, of course, in some religious teachings, red represents hell, damnation, fire, right? And yet fire is our friend. The fire energy is very much of our friend. So some of these things are just to give you ideas, like the portraits, like the family pictures, as Artie is wanting to be involved. And the more that you can balance out your home's energy, it's going to also impact your personal energy. And that's the whole point of doing these things. Is a very large cat is wanting to be involved. So we're going to say, Artie, say hi. Yeah? You going to look at everybody and wave hi? No. Okay. You're too heavy. He's a very big cat. Even things, the more, he's throwing me off in what I was going to say. Anyway, so Chris brought up a great thing, the hearth and the furnace. Now, what about the times of year that you're not using that? When you start bringing in and balancing your environment inside and outside, right? Inside and outside, your home will always have the fire elements warmth when people walk in. Even if it's only, 65 degrees in your house, they're going to feel warm and welcome. Everything external in our homes, in our lives, also impacts us internally. And in just about, ow, dude, no happy paws with the nails on my skin. Down. We know from pretty much every teaching, every religion, the path is in, right? The path is inward. When you work inward and you heal what's inside, then it comes out and it manifests in the external. Same thing with balancing your home energy. Everything you do internally and externally within a balance, utilizing all 12 elements, not limiting yourself. You're going to find you have a better homeostasis. People that come into your home are going to feel more balanced. And if they're not going to stay very long. Right? You'll have people that visit and you're like, yeah, I'm going to tolerate this visit. Well, the more this is balanced and someone who is not balanced comes into the space, they're not going to want to stay within it very long. They're going to come in, do their thing, and leave. Mr. I have to be so active. Foods. Let's talk a little bit about foods related to the fire element. Foods that are red, orange, and yellow in color, right? Red beets Now, I'm not a person that eats a lot of red beets. I rarely ever have them. I really need to get back to eating them, and my husband too. But red beets, don't you just nip my finger because I was going to push them off again. Um, red beets are for the heart. Huge vegetable that works for the blood vessels, and the heart. Whether you're eating the greens off the red beet, whether you're juicing red beet, eating red beets, however you need to get that incorporated into your body, into your diet, highly recommended. It's got huge properties of healing for the system. Some of the orange, what other red foods do we have out there, really? Tomatoes. Tomatoes is a back and forth because tomatoes can also be highly acidic. So you have to watch how you're doing with the alkaline acid balance for the pH. What other red vegetables? Red foods. Of course, red meat is high in proteins, and we can also get them from other foods. But there again, one of the primary times that we're wanting to crave red meat is when we're low in iron, right? Or we're needing it for the blood. There again, you're mixing metal and fire element. Some of the orange ones would be like butternut squash. Cantaloupes are kind of pinky orange. Oh, another great red one, strawberries. Fantastic food. Okay, we all love strawberries for their sweetness, but they actually have huge healing properties for the body. Bucker, what are you doing? Also, things like yellow squash would be fire element to bring into your diet. Bananas. And I know some people probably contradict with that about bananas because I know in some food healing teachings they see bananas as having no purpose because they are a cooling agent in the body. Yes. I don't know if you can hear him or not. Tika's got a sock. Let me see. Other yellow foods. You know what? Maybe she's got some on her board here. Let's see if we've got some other. Oh goodness, yes, she does. Red peppers, cherries. Yeah, totally spaced on cherries. Bananas, corn, eggs, grapefruit, lemons, parsnip, pineapples. Pineapples have an awesome healing attribute, and they're very much of a fire element energy for that food. Let's see, some of the orange ones would be apricots, carrots, mangoes, oranges, peaches, persimmons, pumpkins, and tangerines. Now, I incorporate some of those, not all of them. And there again, with any kind of teaching, you're really wanting to blend. Find what works for your physical body that helps you with all the other layers of the body as well, the mental, spiritual, and emotional. And ow, that nail. Wait. And I'm going to reiterate one part of this information. The fire element relates to your heart and is the most connected to the emotional body. None of the emotions are bad, okay? So the whole positive and negative emotions neutralize that thought, because we come here as souls to have these human experiences and have emotional learning. And if you're suppressing, cutting off, ignoring some of the emotions because you see them as negative aspects of yourself and that they should no longer exist, or if that you're enlightened or you're resonating at fifth dimensional level, whatever, you are hurting your heart, the organ, the channel, the energy, the chakra, all layers of it, if you are ignoring half of your emotional base. Okay? They are there for a reason. They are part of the tools we're here to use. It's how you use it, how you express it, the intent and energy you put behind it when you're processing it and allowing it to be. The more you cut them off, the more they manifest and build up because you're not willing to look at it, and it will manifest into physical ailments. And yes, it can even cause a heart attack in a younger person. We always think that heart attacks only happen to people 55 and older, and that's bullshit in today's world. Okay? Find ways to process those emotions. Find ways to process and heal the traumas in your life. And it will make your heart a whole lot happier. And you as a person will feel a whole lot better. Because the more that you ignore them, it's going to come out somewhere. So, that's my little ending tidbit of advice on the fire element in your body. So, if anybody has any questions, we still have a few minutes. I'll answer anything that anybody has to pop up. And I do actually, I was talking to my husband about the visual to put together. Been working on that a little bit, especially since you and I talked, Chris. And so I was explaining to him the vision I have in my head of how all of the 12 elements work together and interlink. So I might have something a little bit more 3D as a visual coming up, hopefully by the end of this series, to present, to kind of show how they all come in together, planetary and individual wise, and the flow that they have in their nourishing cycles. So we'll see. All right. I can't think of anything else to add. So I'm going to sign off. Thank you to those who came in and joined in today's session about the fire element, and to those who watch these videos at another time I hope they've been helpful in understanding how each of the elements is incorporated in our human physical form and our environment, and start bringing in a little bit more balance into your life and into yourself. Thank you for joining. Namaste. Blessings. Bye. Yes, that's the third cat. That's Sadie Cat.